Crypto winters are a bit hard, aren't they? As human beings, it feels like what has been going on is what is going to continue to go on. So when markets are skyrocketing, it'll often feel like it's just going to go up forever. And when markets are dreadfully slow and most things are decreasing in price or just staying flat, most people leave. But for some reason, that isn't you. Probably because you know something that 95% of people don't grasp. Buy when it's boring. Like boring, like it is now when things just seem kind of depressing at times, right? Or another way of saying that is buy when things are cheap so that you can sell when they're high. I mean, in theory, everyone knows that, but do they actually do it? No, just 5% of people do. And I have a feeling that if you're watching this, that is you, the 5%ers. Well, today we have another 5%er joining us who has made crushing gains in VeVe and VeVe Collectibles since March of last year, and who has become a solid NFT expert. And we're going to talk about the future of VeVe. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel. I'm your host, Jay Rain. If you like money and you like crypto, but you're looking for a seasoned investor's take on the crypto market, join the Rainmaker family. Do know I'm not a financial advisor. Doctor of Stuff is not either. We're crypto investors ourselves. And I do own VeVe Collectibles and their token OMI. Special shout out to our Patreon members. We do have a private Discord that our Patreon members get access to. And if you look at the bottom, we have a strategic relationship with OneChain that actually have some really incredible tech that's coming out soon. Even got talked about by the CEO of Circle, which does the USDC stablecoin. So pay attention in the upcoming weeks to what we're going to talk about them. Go ahead and put your hands up, make it rain, hit that like button, and welcome our guest, Doctor of Stuff.
Hey, Rain, how's it going?
Good. I'm really excited to have you on, and so excited to talk about the future of VeVe.
Me too. It's been a while. It's been a moment. I'm excited to talk with you about VeVe and just catch up. Obviously, I continue to watch all of your videos and keep up on that, but just to have these one-on-ones, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah. Well, so I have a number of questions. I spent some time thinking, man, if Doctor of Stuff's going to come on, I want like good questions. So here's some things I thought about. The general crypto market has slowed down tremendously, and many prices have decreased drastically. Why are you still here? What do you know that 95% of people out there don't seem to get as measured by their actions?
Well, I think you can attribute it to one of one of the people I've looked up to growing up and taking economic classes and investing is Warren Buffett. And one of his quotes that's attributed to him is, "The stock market is a mechanism of transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient." And I've just applied that to the crypto market, which has a lot faster cycles. And I'll tell you what, I worked at an investment firm, and I talked with people, looking at stocks, investing in stocks. I'm a stock investor myself. And then I got into crypto, and the people there are just expecting massive gains immediately. And some of them experience it and they get that taste and then as things drop off, they panic and they just say, like I'm out, like, because they think, oh, it'll dip, but then it's going to go back up. But then instead of going back up, it dips more. It dips more. And one of the memes that we are always seeing, right, is like the dip. Then you got the person sitting behind it. That's the dip, but then the person behind that's the dip, and then you got like the sniper in the back that's the actual dip. Like you just don't know where it's at. And the reason I'm here is because, just like that quote says, it's being patient and it's doing the research, because the massive gains really are experienced when everything's going down. And like you say all the time on your channel, is buy when it's boring. And I think one of the reasons that is so difficult to do is because people don't put in the time to research these projects, and so they don't know if it's going to zero or not. They just see the token going down and they're saying, well, they do one of two things. Oh, I'm going to sell now. And then as it drops, then I'm going to buy back in. But then they don't. They forget about it. And then by the time they remember, they've remembered because the token's already gone up past their sell point. And now they're having to pay more money to get back in because they're chasing those gains or those green candles again. So I'm here because, like a stock investor, you do buy when it's low, and you do those. You do the research and you do the due diligence, and you put in the sweat equity to find those projects that are still building, that have strong use cases, and you're throwing in money now, and that can be tough. That can definitely be tough.
You bring up an interesting point. Just about they wonder whether it's going to zero, and I guess some people, I've thought about business for so long, right, and studied business for so long, I forget that some people don't know about business development cycles. And so when they see things going wrong, we're going to spend a lot of time talking about VeVe. You see this all the time in the VeVe space. They're frustrated by something that's slow to getting fixed, and they're like, I'm done, I'm out, as if like the whole thing's going to collapse because that thing that's been working on, they don't realize how normal this is with business, right? And so they just get so frustrated because in their mind that thing should have already been fixed, and they're like, I'm out and I'm done, and they try to kick the space on the way out, and they leave all these negative flaming comments everywhere. And they don't realize that, like those who understand business cycles because they've been studying investment for a while see that, and they're just like, oh man. So as you were talking about that, I thought about those people. I'd forgotten about them. They're like, I'm so done. If money transmitter license doesn't come out by January 31st, like whatever their date is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I'm just going to jump in real quick. Like, what's happening there is it's an emotional reaction. And so one of two things: either they put in more money than they can afford to lose, and so as it's continued to go down, they're panicking. They're saying, I need to sell, or I'm out, and I put all of this extra money that I shouldn't have, and shame on me, and I can't afford it to go down more. And so it's this knee-jerk emotional reaction to it, and then they'll put arbitrary dates in, as if X doesn't happen by such a date, like that, whatever that is, the money transmitter license is going to save VeVe. We saw that it didn't, right? Prices went down after that, and that's something that we talked about. You and I talked about on your channel, like in your Telegram and in your Discord too. Is that so? Yeah, it's those emotional reactions, but learning to separate the emotion, which can be hard. It's very easy to say this, but then it's very hard to actually separate that. But yeah, those people. And the funny thing is two things. I love this quote that people constantly will say. They're like, "This isn't an airport. You don't need to announce your departure." But I get it, because again, they've put in a lot of time and they've invested a lot of emotion into VeVe, and VeVe is an incredible project. So you get attached to the community, you get attached to everything. And then again, if you're throwing so much money at it that you can't afford to lose and things are going down, you do get emotional and you're just like I'm out. But ironically, and I've seen this in kind of dips and then pumps, where the people who announced they're like, I'm out, then they're back again once things start to pump. But again, if they've truly sold when they said they did, they're buying back at higher prices.
Yeah. No, that leads to a question. Why, of all the things, because you're very well versed in other cryptos, like why does VeVe attract so much of your attention? Right? Is it fair to say that maybe 60 or 70% of your crypto time is spent in VeVe and Ecomi?
It is. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, portfolio wise, VeVe is probably like 45% of my crypto portfolio, but probably takes up 60 to 70% of my time for a couple of reasons. First of all, I love the community. I have yet Cornucopias, which you talk about on your channel.
Mm-hmm.
That has a pretty solid community as well. Very friendly, welcoming community. Not as big as VeVe. So VeVe is just this big family, and you'll get infights and all that, just like an actual family. That happens, But for the most part, I mean, if you're not familiar with the VeVe family, I mean, and a lot of it happens on Twitter, but just incredibly warm and welcoming community. They got a lot of Twitter Spaces where they try to update people and just talk about things. So I love being a part of that. Reverend Alex G, he's their main marketing communications manager, and just does a phenomenal job of plugging into the community and finding out what are the pain points that people are talking about, and he'll bring that up to David and Dan. And so there's that. But then on top of that, it truly is, I continue to research. These guys are paving roads in this space, and they have been for years. And I say that because they are one of the first, and I would say the first to land several massive major IPs, because you'll have like Artifact does a collaboration with Nike, and you'll see some of these other major IPs in the space. Adidas is in the space, right? But nothing like Marvel and Disney and DC Comics and Ultraman, and like as you branch out into different countries and regions, there's more different popular IP that might not be popular here, but it's popular over there. Adventure Time is actually really popular in Asian markets. And so anyways, I love the fact that you have a very strong team. You have the CEO, David Yu, who he understands collecting on a level that very few do. And he's leading the digital collectible company tied to all this major IP. And so it's constantly trying to listen to the things that they're talking about. There was just an impromptu AMA with David Yu at the Designer Con in London that just happened. And one of the things that they talked about with their NFTs, and one of their focuses going forward is wearables. And we're seeing that Apple, Microsoft, and a lot of these other major corporations are developing like AR, VR glasses, right, and headsets, and Meta's working on that as well. And that's one of the things that they are focused on, is being able to see your NFTs using those wearables. And so that's why they have a collusion in there and things, so that when you're walking into your house, you will eventually be able to see, hey, here's my Patrick Hughes art displayed on my wall. If you're wearing those glasses, you'll be able to see that. And so I feel like they're constantly ahead of the game. And so I'm trying to pay attention to what they're looking at. And then I'm also looking at different projects that could tie into that. So, I mean, there's just so much there, right? So those are some of the reasons that a lot of my time is focused on VeVe.
Yeah, we're still in the infancy stages, right? Like the early days of the internet, when this company called Amazon, they didn't have, they're getting crushed by Barnes and Noble and like the major booksellers, and they had this online book thing, and it was, you could buy discounted books from other people. And over time it became a behemoth. And I think VeVe has that potential. They're on the right track for that, but it's a long ways from here. Mm-hmm. And so question though, with where prices are at, are you more bullish right now on the OMI token, or would you say VeVe Collectibles as being like too cheap or, too discounted?
Well, I would say this right now, for me personally, I think the OMI token is the better buy. I don't see anytime in the short term VeVe Collectibles, like any catalyst for price increases in collectibles. Because I think overall, for a lot of there might be certain collectibles that have little mini pumps, right? But for the most part, I don't see catalysts right now that are going to bring the liquidity necessary into the ecosystem to pump up collectible prices. Whereas I think OMI token, they've constantly said that this OUP article is coming out, that they're finally going to tie in OMI to the VeVe ecosystem. And so it's a gamble, because they could mess this up. I don't know what's in the OUP. And if it's not strong enough or it's not exciting enough, then it really will be kind of a dud, right? And they'll probably have to revamp it, but that's a major chance missed. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that overall, they really are taking their time. I think that's one of the reasons it's taken so much time, is they understand how important this is to get it right, and they're getting feedback. They have little think tanks that they're pitching ideas to and bringing it all together. So sometime in Q3, I believe, here within, I don't know, Q3 I would assume end of September or maybe into October, we're going to see the OMI utility program article. And if that's bullish, because then there's two things.
True.
Because they talked about crypto to NFT, right? Or crypto to gems. So if you get those two things where it's like, okay, OMI, people can buy crypto and then get into the ecosystem. And maybe it's OMI that you have to buy to bring in there. That would be a catalyst for the OMI price token. On top of the OMI utility program, where there would be staking tiers, where all of a sudden people are going to be buying up that OMI token. So I just think short term, I think that, again, not financial advice, but my projections are that the OMI token in general is going to pump. And maybe it's only 50%, 25%. But in general, I don't see any catalyst for the collectibles right now to make those pumps.
On that same level, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good points. Now, on the collectible side, if you had to pick two collectibles for the top ROI over the next 5 years, and this is just a guess, so this isn't financial advice to anyone, which would you pick? Like, say you're like, okay, think about over the next 5 years, what two at the current price that they're at would possibly have the highest ROI?
That's a great question. In 5 years, man, there's so much that could happen in 5 years. For the ROI itself, so here's something that I just cannot get out of my mind. And I know that it has a higher edition count, but Darth Vader. So I look at the common Darth Vaders, and they're probably around $100. But so yeah, Darth Vader's, because it's such a popular IP. He's one of the most well-known villains of all time, and Star Wars fans have money. They have a lot of money, and we've seen, if we look at what Spider-Man did, and don't get me wrong, Spider-Man's amazing, right? But the common Spider-Man itself went to like $1,000 in the last pump in January. It went up to $1,000, and so I'm thinking that there's less editions of this Darth Vader, which has an awesome glowing lightsaber. It's not animated, but it's still glowing. What can that do in the next pump? And I believe that the next pump, there's going to be so many more things lined up, right? There will be the Master Collector program. There will be OMI staking, the OMI to NFT. All of these things combined, that there will be a lot more liquidity the next bull run than there was the last one. And I just see Vader going up pretty substantially. The other one that I think has just significant potential because it's historic, and again, in 5 years, I do believe in VeVe, and I believe that VeVe will be here in 5 years. And that's why I'm throwing the money I am into VeVe. But the Todd McFarlane Batman. So in this last impromptu AMA, David, you talked about the Todd McFarlane Batman. It's the first Batman that they did. It's the first minted superhero on VeVe. So if VeVe becomes a big deal, there are going to be those people who are saying they love the firsts of things in general. So they're going to go to the first. He's the first superhero on the blockchain with a licensed IP, the first Batman on the blockchain, and the first VeVe NFT. And so if VeVe becomes a household name, I think that holds historical significance. And we've seen, so right now, I think he's at like 1.5, 1.6K. We saw in the last pump that he went to like 12K. And again, I think that if we get interoperability, that will be a big one. And David, you did talk about that, how they're working with licensors. So, I mean, we've already seen that DC has been willing to do interoperability with Hero or HRO. So I do imagine that will be the case. And once that happens, I do think that the Todd McFarlane, even now at that higher price point, has substantial chances of just crazy ROI down the line because it's the first. And I do believe that there are the rich people, the very wealthy people who will want that flex.
I like it. I mean, if I had to pick two of mine, one of them would be Darth Vader, just because the price is so low. Another one that is unfathomably low is Boba Fett, in my opinion. And it's just because the Star Wars collectors aren't here yet. Most of them don't realize with VeVe, right? What's crazy is with toy collectibles. I had a friend that was big into toy collectibles, and he literally had a full room full of like toys and stuff. And he would talk to me about it all the time. I was like, yeah, yeah. And then he showed me like what Lego Star Wars were appreciating. And I was like, why Star Wars? So of all the Lego sets, because Legos actually do pretty well, why Star Wars? And he said, it just has to do with the demographics. I mean, you think about somebody, they're maybe 40 years old now, they're a doctor, and they're like, oh, the Millennium Falcon, oh, the really big set, oh man, I want one of those. Or one of the big walkers from Empire Strikes Back, right? Those tended to do really well. Or even the Republic gunships, those did really well. It's like, Star Wars, really? And he's like, think about it. Doctor, lawyer, whatever, and they're like, nah, it's $1,000. Okay. And it initially cost $100. So you're talking about 10x on a toy set. Didn't even matter sometimes if the box was dinged. Why? Because they were going to open it up and put it together. I mean, it hurt the value a little bit. So what did matter was that all the pieces were there, right? And best if like the packages weren't open, but if they were open, that you had some kind of guarantee that all the pieces were there. And, there was this Millennium Falcon that sold for like, it was a ultimate, is the biggest one at the time, sold for like $400 or $500. 2 years later, they were going for $5,000 to $10,000 on eBay. I was like, oh my gosh. And so the amount of money Star Wars collectors will spend on stuff is absurd. So clearly the Star Wars collectors aren't into VeVe yet. The question is, will they be? I mean, I think yes. We'll see.
So I'll say this, right? You can see my background there. So as a kid, right there, that is a little savings bank. You put money in, and Darth Vader activates. He brings up his lightsaber, and it still works in everything. Like, I've been a Star Wars fan since I was a kid, and so I've loved it. I have the Star Wars comic books on VeVe. I've got all the Star Wars characters. Like, I have all the Star Wars sets. Um, I, and the biggest thing that I think why most Star Wars collectors aren't here is because people don't understand NFTs. When I talk to people about NFTs right now, honestly, 95% of them are saying, oh, they harm the environment. Like, making one NFT is the same energy as it costs to run a city for a day. I mean, just all these weird, crazy talking points that they just don't understand it. But we see big companies like Meta that are spending billions upon billions of dollars to build out metaverses, which will have NFTs. And so I do believe that NFTs, the education around NFTs will be implemented, and more people will get up to date on that. Then they'll be introduced to VeVe, and that's where the money will flow. And so Boba Fett is also, I mean, 100%. I mean, I know all the random kind of facts about Boba Fett, before all of this stuff came out. I played the Star Wars card game, which is kind of like Magic the Gathering and stuff. Won competitions with it. Like, I'm a Star Wars nerd. I love it. And I do think that as more and more people understand what NFTs are, because right now, a lot of people, even some people who kind of start investigating NFTs, they just see like Bored Ape Yacht Club and they're like, it's a picture. What is this? And it's like, no, look, my NFTs, I can take like pictures with them with my kids, like they're an AR and soon potentially VR, or they could even be tied into video games, all of these different things, right? So in 5 years, the chances, if VeVe succeeds, of these not doing extremely well over time is pretty slim that they won't do that like really well. So couldn't agree more.
The power of a social flex too, right? Or an identifier of something that you're passionate about, especially if it gets traction. I mean, look at how Bored Apes Yacht Club did so well that these celebrities were FOMOing into them to identify with that. Oh yeah, Bored Apes Yacht Club, that's so cool, man. I just bought mine for $400,000. And there was only 10,000 of them, and so like they're like, oh, and it seems so scarce. and really what, like 10 celebrities maybe got into it is all. And yet the price is pumped tremendously. Yeah, where could VeVe go if, well, so Dan Crothers was talking about the other day about tens of millions coming in the future.
Mhm.
Do you think that realistically will happen?
That's not a lot. I mean, people say that number, and like it sounds like a lot, but when we look at the world population, that's a drop in the bucket. And so I look at how many people use Netflix, how many people play video games, how many people collect just even like Star Wars or are collectors themselves of different IP. And so it is definitely within the realm of possibility because VeVe has and here's the thing, there's so many IPs that they haven't released yet. Basically, they've already announced there's not a single IP that they've wanted that they haven't been able to get yet, right? So you think about Nintendo, Lego, like collaborations, even. I mean, yeah, you have. I just blanked out on it. Goku from uh,
Dragon Ball Z.
yeah, it's Dragon Ball Z. I'm like Super Saiyan, but anyway, I mean, I like just the list of all of the different IP. It was going through my head, and I'm trying to be like, okay, what are the major ones? But there's so many out there that they have, and that's the thing is, everyone to a certain extent is a collector of something, and
Mhm.
so if VB can have something on there that people like, they'll be drawn to that. And again, once more and more people are understanding NFTs, it becomes more mainstream and more accepted, and there are those social flexes. And you're seeing that on Instagram, on Facebook. You're beginning to be able to integrate your NFTs to show that and flex that as your profile pic, and that it's verified that this you hold this NFT, right? It's slowly happening. And it takes those influencers at first. I remember as Bored Ape was first getting started, and Des Bryant, he's a wide receiver. He's a famous wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Played for the Dallas Cowboys before he retired, and he bought a Bored Ape, and he had like the gold grill, smile, and he put that as his Twitter profile. And I remember so many people when he posted that on his Twitter feed being like, "What in the world is that? That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen." And then you get Jimmy Fallon and Paris Hilton and Seth Green and Neymar, right? And all of a sudden, all of these other celebrities, and it becomes cool. It becomes a social flex. And are you kidding me? Neymar's got a tattoo on his back of Batman and Spider-Man. You don't think that Neymar, once interoperability hits and the crypto crowd, basically a lot of the FUD with VB right now is that not my keys, not my NFTs. So if there's interoperability there, and a lot of that is developed. I just don't see how we don't get tens of millions because you'll have all of the influencers, all of them talking about it. So we're early, and it'll be awesome to be like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, this person's talking about it. Yeah, well, we were talking about VB 3-5 years ago, right? And the people who listen to us, how are they doing now, right? So yes,
I
absolutely,
remember
billions of people.
first covering the Todd McFarlane Batman when it was still available on the store, and you could get an edition number in the 1500s. And a bunch of my regular crypto listeners actually were really pissed off that I was wasting time talking about, this stupid Batman NFT thing, right? And and I tried to do the best I could to make the case to them that I'm an investor for return on investment. And it's the first Batman on the blockchain. What doesn't make sense about this to you? How do you not see this, right? So anyway.
You talked to me about it, and I want to give you a shout out here, Rain. I don't think that people realize. I mean, because you've got some great YouTubers out there that cover VV. You got Taps Trades, right? You've got NFT Pirates does a great job. I mean, one of the OGs, Orange Bag Lady. We've had a lot, like all of them on our channel, on your channel during the VV space. But and they talked about it, but but you brought on, I've talked to VeVe Viral, who's got over 10,000 followers on Twitter now. And he's a big VeVe poster. And he said that you are the person he was watching, that he found out about VeVe through you. And that's how I found out about VeVe. And I remember because I'd started to follow NBA Top Shots, and I was watching the LeBron James moment sold for like 250,000, and it was this NFT.
Mhm.
And it was right after that you were talking to me and saying, "Hey, this is the first Batman NFT on the blockchain." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm paying $80 for this JPEG, but your argument, I couldn't refute it." And so I just said, I've got to throw some money at it because it just makes sense. I'm not going to throw as much as I wish I would have, but I definitely, yeah. So you've been a leader in the VeVe space and touting VeVe and Omi for a long time. And I just want to make sure that you get the credit that's due you, because you definitely influenced a lot of the current influencers in VeVe.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I'm glad the argument made sense to them, because it made sense to me, right? And we're in another one of those moments with like the Darth Vader comment, right? So I just can't see the ROI on that not doing really well unless VeVe fails. And I can't see VeVe. I mean, every company has a chance of failing. Things come up and stuff, or crazy things happen. Co-founders start fighting or whatever, and they crash. I'd say the likelihood is low on that. It's the first Darth Vader on the blockchain. It's around the price of the Todd McFarlane Batman. I have a slew of them. Also a slew of the uncommon ones, just because I like the pose a little bit more. Normally I just would have went all in on just the commons, but I like the pose a little bit more. So how, with that thought that like in the future, say 50 million people come into VeVe, and that this trajectory that like VeVe becomes like the thing, like Bored Ape Yacht Club. This is just rampant, crazy speculation. What could the price of like the common first appearance Spider-Man collectible go to? Not the comic, but the collectible.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we've already seen it with I mean, I know that VeVe okay, and we've talked about this a little bit on your channel, but um I remember in December and January where they were talking about how they had 2.1 million active users. And we weren't getting drops, and they were saying that's why we weren't getting drops. And so I had a hard time thinking that was the case. I knew that there were bots, and they were saying there weren't as many. Well, then I come to find out that their definition of what an active user is was basically someone like that interacted within the app within like a month or something like that. So if you have a bot and there's a ton of bots, that's what was counting. And so if you notice, they haven't really talked about the number of active users right now, because it's dropped significantly as they've gotten rid of the bots, which well done. They're still coming. They're coming back a little bit, but I digress. In January, with those bots and the liquidity that were in there, the common Spider-Man went to $1,000, which I thought at the time when Spider-Man first released in August, I thought they released too many editions. This is crazy. It sat on the market, the secondary market, for $30 after the drop for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so my guess is this, that if there are Spider-Man is one of the most popular superheroes in the world. I mean, they do like an annual survey of who their favorite superhero is, and it kind of shifts a little bit depending on what movies are out during that time or have come out that year. But I mean, when you're getting 50 million, obviously not necessarily all of those are going to be Spider-Man, but people are going to want the first Spider-Man on the blockchain. And so it could be $10,000, $15,000 or more, right? I'm trying to be conservative, but and that's crazy to say that a common Spider-Man with the number of editions that there are. But when you look at tens of millions, then all of a sudden the 20,000 commons that are out there or whatever it is, that becomes very small and very, very rare. and hard to get.
Yeah, we have this weird thing with these NFTs, right? So like baseball card scarcity, or think of the comic book scarcity. A lot of that is driven by like people read the magazines and then it got thrown away and mom eventually threw away the box, or water damage because it was in the basement and the basement flooded, or whatever. Kids put the baseball cards in their tire spokes and showed it off. Look at my Mickey Mantle, it's so amazing, right? And there's only like 3 PSA graded 10 Mickey Mantles in the world now. So that's where the value has come from. But the hard thing about collectibles, right? Like that, like some people own it, but like, where do you store something like that? How do you display something like that safely, right? Digital collectibles solves a lot of that. So I just think the demand is going to be higher than physical collectibles could ever get. Because like, even if you're like, you want the status symbol of like, I want the first appearance comic book of Spider-Man, that would be cool. What are you going to do? Hang it on your wall? You could in the PSA graded thing, but
Yeah.
like, then you got to build some things around it. Whereas I think with where the digital space is going, and there's some, a company that you and I are talking with that's got a really cool thing where about showing off NFTs and creating display areas for NFTs that will have all these digital places to show off and flex these NFTs. And so that part will be taken care of, as well as we have this worldwide market. Like you can instantly sell to somebody on their type of the world. You don't have to like trust that they're going to ship it to you or anything, or it's going to come and it's going to be dinged. All of those problems taken care of, so that this space can go huge. And so unlike the scarcity of like comic books and baseball cards, the scarcity will be that the number of people demanding them is so much bigger than the original supplies that were being released of 10,000 mints or 20,000 mints or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, where would you think if, say, 50 million people are in, where could Todd McFarlane Batman go? And this is just crazy speculation, definitely not financial advice.
I think, look, you look at Bored Ape Yacht Club, and mad props to what they've built out of nothing. Out of nothing, they've built an incredible ecosystem and incredible IP from it. So mad props to them. But DC Comics and a lot of these IPs have been doing it for decades and decades. So they've withstood the test of time, right, through ups and downs. And so I look at Todd McFarlane, I'm saying, okay, a Bored Ape during a bull run, the most common ones, the floor was around $300,000 to $400,000. In my mind, with 7,500 editions of the Todd McFarlane and the first Batman on the blockchain, and if VeVe truly is a household name, it's 6 figures. It's 6 figures for me, honestly. And maybe that's 200,000, maybe that's 500,000. I don't think it hits $1 million. I don't think it hits 7 figures, but I could be wrong there. But do I think it could hit 6 figures? I really do. And here's the other thing that you can do. A couple things. So David Yu, who is, master collector level 9,000, or
Yeah.
he has warehouses where he's got to store all these collectibles. And when he has these AMAs, he's swapping out the collectibles in the background, which is awesome because they're kind of like hints as to what's to come. But that's his what kind of like moment to share what he has, right? But it's got warehouses.
Yeah.
But with NFTs, right? He can have a picture frame, a digital frame in the background that's rotating through all of these different NFTs that he has, and he can have several of them in the background, and he can transport them with him at any time, and just so he can bring that digital frame, and it can be anywhere. And so, like you said, I mean, that's one of the strongest use cases for that is that they don't deteriorate, and the market becomes exponentially larger as the world gets big, the population gets bigger. Is there will be more and more people that you can sell to, and like you said, the trust factor is eliminated, and that is huge in the physical collectible space. I'm looking on eBay, and I'm just like, is this a knockoff? How do I tell if it's a knockoff on a physical collectible? And so I just don't pull the trigger. But on the blockchain, it's all there, it's all verified, and so all of that is addressed. And like you said, there will be such a bigger market, and there's so much money out there. There's so much money out there. So, yeah, massive speculation, but do I see Todd in the future if VeVe, two things, if VeVe becomes a household name, which I believe it will, and if those NFTs are interoperable. I do believe that is key. If they are not interoperable, unless VeVe becomes the
Yes,
10,000-pound gorilla,
right.
that it's so big that OpenSea is not VeVe's marketplace is the bigger marketplace that people are going to, which could happen. But if that's not the case, and I don't think it will be the case in the near term anyways, that interoperability needs to happen.
Shifting gears just a little bit, tell me what you think about digital comics. Do they become like the thing in the future? People read them through there, and like VeVe like dominates that because they have some of the best comics. Do you think that becomes the digital comic thing in the future?
It's been interesting as VeVe's turned me into a physical collector of comics. I bought comics as a kid, and somewhere, if my parents didn't throw that box away, like you talk about parents throwing box away, I have a box of pretty old school comics from the early 90s, but of comics that I bought from people. Now, I don't know, I can't remember what condition. Some of them would be in good condition, but anyways, I gone into these comic stores recently and talked to these comic collectors, and again, they're like, "Oh, that's great, but I'm all about the physical." And there's been this debate as to whether or not these digital comics are reprints, or if they truly are like the new digital. And David Yu believes that they are the new thing. And shout out to Comics and Crypto. I think that they've been kind of leading that charge as to basically making the argument that these really are the first on the blockchain. They're not reprints; that they're their own medium, and it's just a digital medium. So we've already seen. Here's the thing: some of it is speculation, but we are seeing people like My Collectibles and Sleeping Comics and Comics and Crypto that are comic collectors that are going out and they are buying these digital comics. So you have people who are deeply entrenched in the physical collectible comic space, and they're seeing the value of the digital comics. So I do think it's going to take some time, but there will be a shift, and the value will be there. And shout out to David Yu for thinking for that Marvel one. And I kick myself every day for not picking up more Marvel One comics when they were at $3 in the secondary and then $9. But I did pick up some, and I've held on to them. And then after that drop, I have never made that mistake again as I did more research on it. So to answer your question, I do believe that, again, digital comics will kind of take over because it's so much easier, and you can read it you'll be able to read it. You can already read it in AR, which is a lot of fun, actually. I don't know if you've done that, but I've done that, reading those comics and zooming in and checking that out. And I think it's just going to get better. The technology, the AR goggles or glasses are going to get better, and you can read those there. And so I think they're going to take the world by storm. It's going to take some time, but I do think it'll be actually like a fad. People get really, really excited about it. So
I hope so. I'm betting on it. I think the same thing, right? And with investing, right, you just don't know. And I see it as investing. To me, this is all ROI investing that I happen to love too, right? I love Star Wars movies. Boba Fett as a kid, I just thought was the coolest thing in the world. Darth Vader, right? Like just really cool. What they've done with him too, including in the new it's a new series, right? With what was that, Obi-Wan, where they brought Darth Vader back. It's like, yes, and they did a good job with him, right? He's freaking amazing. Yeah, so I have that inner nerd that's always loved Star Wars and like X-Men and other things. I didn't get into comic book collecting. What's funny is this conversion to the digital stuff has made me more interested in the actual physical comics. I wonder if a lot of the conversion for comic book collectors and other people comes through when they get their conversion to crypto. Like right now, they're like, nah. But then when they wake up to crypto, as the world comes in, right? Say Bitcoin hits over 100,000 or 200,000, then they're like, oh my gosh, I should have bought Bitcoin when it was 5,000 or 20,000 or whatever their story is. And they just like, yeah, I'll do it later. And then it hits those numbers. And then they start researching what is this crypto thing. And then all of a sudden they're like, man, I've been collecting physical comics for forever. We've got 2 rooms full that my wife is always hounding on me, like selling some to free up some space. And now I can store it all digitally. And if that's not where their conversion comes from, right? Is they woke up to crypto and then they're like, but wait, I'm a comic collector. Oh, digital comics. Yeah.
The great thing about VeVe is I think that there's so many different avenues for people to enter in, because I would say a lot of the VeVe community, they don't know anything about crypto, but they've heard about these digital collectibles, they've heard about NFTs, and so they get into it. And then on the flip side, there are people who came in from crypto. Like I knew crypto before I knew NFTs for sure, and so it was a lot easier adoption curve for me to get in and be like, oh, okay, I get this. I totally get this. And then I'm all in pretty quickly. And so I do think that there will be people who get into crypto and then fall into VeVe, and then also the other way around. But that's the great thing is I think that there are certain projects out there that the only gateway really is through crypto. And don't get me wrong, the crypto community, there's money there. And so you definitely see some of those projects in there, which will definitely help. But so I don't disagree with you. I do think that will definitely be one of the ways that people get in, as they hear about when your taxi driver is saying, hey, have you heard about OMI? The OMI token, or you've heard about VeVe Collectibles? Like that's when you know that they truly have hit the mainstream. And it could be either through the OMI token, and so people are looking into that, and then they fall into VeVe, or the VeVe collectibles themselves we're starting to have these one-of-one auctions. Now, all I can say is this. David Yu, in his background, multiple times has had Banksy figurines, okay? Banksy's art goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars to the millions of dollars. And so if they truly have VeVe, which in my mind, there's no way that David Yu is throwing out Banksy multiple times and they don't have Banksy. So I'm tripping out because I truly believe that they do have Banksy. Now, the question is it a one-of-one? And in true Banksy fashion, is it under like a different name so people don't know it's a Banksy until after they've done the one-of-one? And then they're like, psych, it's a Banksy. Or I don't know. I have no idea how that's going to happen, But or if they have it, a 10,000 version, or I don't know how many editions they'd have of a Banksy. But where I'm going with this is these one-of-ones are going to be huge. And if you can get a collectible to sell for millions of dollars on VeVe, that's going to make news around the world. That a $1 million NFT. And so if that's on the VeVe platform, and anyways, that could also bring a lot of other people into the space. So either through crypto, through the OMI token doing well, or through a VeVe collectible itself selling in the 7 figures.
What's funny is in March when I got started, what got my attention was the OMI token was pumping tremendously. Mm-hmm. And then I was researching them. I was like, wait, they have this app out already? And I downloaded the app and I was like, oh my gosh, they have Batman already? Oh my gosh. And I wonder if we don't see an OMI pump. If they do a good thing on the OMI utility program and that comes out and does really well, and it just attracts a bunch of people to OMI token, because there's a lot of collectors that don't hold any OMI yet. Mm-hmm. And if they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get some OMI, and you have 20,000 people trying to collect 10,000, 100,000, a couple million OMI, oh my gosh, that creates a price squeeze tremendously. And you can see the price pump 5, 6, 10x. And when nothing else is pumping and all of a sudden something goes 5 or 6 or 10x, catches everyone, everyone turns their head and is like, what's that about? Right. Yeah. Which might bring some more people to the app. We'll see how this plays out. Really hard to tell in the short term how things will play out. And it always is. In the long run, though, if they keep plugging away and keep developing and don't slow down too much, that allows competitors to catch up, I think they could own this space and dominate this space, which is why it has a good portion of my attention, right? That's like, wow. And a lot of my interest in, I put a lot of investment into it too.
I think you bring up an incredible point that I think a lot of people don't really grasp what happens in pumps. They look at how many tokens, the OMI token out there, and they're just like, there's just billions of the OMI token. Well, what happens if in this OMI utility program, they say, all right, you need 50,000, because I've heard the number 50,000 thrown out, $50,000 worth of OMI tokens to hit the highest staking tier. And that staking tier is going to give you certain benefits. Well, what if those benefits is they do a massive drop, and if you hold that highest staking tier, then you're almost guaranteed to get that. There's going to be two things. There's going to be a lot of people wanting to buy the token, but at the same time, the people who are holding the token are starting to say, I don't want to sell at these prices. So it's this double whammy where all of a sudden there's this huge demand, and the supply that was here like dips even further, because now the people who are saying, well, I was originally going to sell at this price point, but now this utility is here and I understand the demand, and now if you want it, you got to pay a lot more, and all of a sudden market caps go crazy with the OMI token or any token, right? These pumps can really happen where all of a sudden people are starting to say, I don't know if I want to sell at this price point, and I'm going to lift that. And you see that in the VeVe market too with collectibles, where people were listing and they're saying, oh, there's this huge demand. Well, forget this. I had it listed at 100, but now I'm going to list it at 350. And all of a sudden that price point jumps substantially with that. So I agree with you that if VeVe plays it right, there could be some major demand for the OMI token, which then again draws more and more people into the space and gets more people understanding that VeVe is a very serious player in not only the crypto space, but the NFT space.
What's so funny is last March, right, when money was coming into the market, not just Ecomi, Ecomi did about 1,000x, which most things did not do those kind of numbers, 1,000x from their lows. And so that's a really, really big price jump. And since then it's corrected, it's down, 90% since then. So it's only up 100x from the lows. I'm sure at those lows of the crypto winter, nobody is crying, because it's only up 100x. But what's crazy is they were only on two random, like nobody was on exchanges, and they did that. And what was also so crazy that just has me puzzled about the power of how excited people get about this is that, like, a lot of people's first purchase in crypto was to buy OMI, which it was so hard, right? People talk about, oh my gosh, you got to make it so simple that anybody can get it. No, there was nothing simple about it. And yet so many people came in and they're like, yes, I have some OMI token. They didn't have any other crypto other than maybe they had Bitcoin, so they could send Bitcoin over there so that then they could buy it, all the while having their friend walk them through getting it. And they had no other crypto, but they had the OMI token. And I was like, this is so powerful. Oh my gosh. Imagine what that looks like if they roll out an OMI utility program. They get added to some big exchanges. I mean, at least now you can buy it on Uniswap, and anyone can do that. But Bitforex, and I think I even have a link below for Bitforex. That's the one I use. There's a number of other exchanges, but not the big exchanges like Coinbase and Binance and Kucoin. But when those are there, and I just think of what it did before, if it hits the right kind of power, oh man, it could go to 3 cents, it could go to 10 cents, it could go to $1. Not that it should hit $1 in the next 2 or 3 years, but it never should have hit 1.4 cents in the last March, and yet it did it anyway. Why? Because the pendulum swings too far to one way from the other, right? Which is why it's so exciting to buy when it's boring, when the prices are way down. Why? Because the pendulum swings too far down, and then it swings too far up. And so, like, That's some people think I'm a genius. Oh my gosh, you've made millions of dollars in crypto in the last 5 years. I stuck around. I did research on projects, and I bought when it was boring, and I sold when people were like, it's never going to stop going up. It's that, I like to say it's that simple, but as human beings, it's actually the hardest time to sell is when it feels like things will just keep going up. And the hardest time to buy is like right now, right? And it's boring because you get day after day of inundated with, and this is down and, and all these reasons why it might fail or it might go down another 50% or another 80%. And you've been kicked so many times, you just want to give up. And yet all of you who are still here, you're here. I'm so excited for all of you. I'm excited for what the future looks like for you because you've actually weathered a lot. You really should congratulate yourselves for it. Doctor of Stuff, I really appreciate your time and joining our audience and just talking about it. I miss the Wednesdays that we used to do. That was a lot of fun.
It was, and I appreciate you having me on the channel. And I just want to reiterate what you said, Rain, and just tell people, look, there are days, even myself, where the crypto winter is boring, and it is frustrating to like check my VeVe app or my crypto portfolio and see it drop again, and saying I'm going to put more money in, and it is mentally it's tough. And honestly, I could just say or suggest go and take a walk, go out and explore this wonderful world. I mean, there's a lot more to crypto, but I think that crypto is the wave of the future. I think that's what's happening. And so to keep yourself in the game, if that's what you need to do, find something that can kind of help distract you a little bit while still focusing in and looking at these projects, but not focusing on what the price is doing right now and really focusing on the fundamentals. That's one thing that I've just appreciated about your channel, Rain, is that you're constantly teaching these people. And look, people can go to BitBoy and there's already that lawsuit where that basically a YouTuber called out BitBoy for pumping and dumping tokens on their listeners. And there's YouTubers out there that are constantly doing that. That's how they make money, especially the bigger ones, is people come in and they say, what's the biggest channel? Because they must be the most successful. They must be the most intelligent. That is rarely the case. But it's these people here. And that's the last thing I want to say is there are a lot of YouTubers out there, whether it's for crypto, for VeVe, for anything. And I just beg the people to look at those YouTubers who have been successful about what they're talking about, not successful at making the channel, which has then made them money, but made them money from what they are doing, whether that's stock trading, crypto trading, NFT trading, any of those things. There are some great podcasts and YouTubers out there, and Rain, you are definitely one of them. And I just hope that people realize this. Rain's channel, Rain is a crypto millionaire. He's made millions in crypto. Look at these other YouTubers and where they made their money. Now they can get lucky, but that's the thing is Rain, you have some strong fundamentals, and you sit there and say that you're not a genius. I would counter that argument. I would say, honestly, for you to look at the projects and pick those projects during the bear market when Cardano was going down and down, and everyone was flooding Cardano, everyone. And yet you'd done those fundamentals and said, no, I believe in that. That's not luck at that point. That's truly trusting your gut instinct and doing that research. So just for you Rainmakers out there, well done for continuing to listen to Rain, and I'll continue to listen to you, Rain, and I appreciate being on your channel.
Thank you, Dr. Stuff. We appreciate all the kind words. And our Rainmaker family has been awesome. I have to say, those that have joined the Patreon and get access to private Discord, as well as those that join the free Telegram, like, I love our family, like, and some of them, like, I consider family. Abe and Chris and so many, like, have become friends, right? And I see them all the time, and I love where this is going to go. So I'm excited for all of those of you that are excited about crypto and where this is going. Look, the crypto market, it's just slow right now, but do know that good decisions made during these pullbacks lead to life-changing ones when the market turns around, and the rains will come again. This wrap is for all of you. Hope you guys enjoy it. Most of you know what this is. For those that are new, enjoy.
came into the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I stick the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, say the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.